Hello, I'm Deborah Pascali Bonaro of Orgasmic Birth, and I'm here in Bali, and we're really exploring a lot of pleasure and great topics, and I'm so honored to be here with Dr. Sarah Buckley. Can you tell our audience a little bit about you, and then let's hear a little bit about birth as sex.
Birth as sex, great topic. So my name's Sarah Buckley. I'm a family physician or GP by training. I'm the author of the book Gentle Birth, Gentle Mothering. I'm a mother of 4, and I have a special interest in the hormones of labour and birth, which leads us into
sex.
How is birth like sex? Well, the interesting thing, Deborah, is if you look at the hormonal orchestration of labour and birth, it's virtually identical to the hormonal orchestration of making a baby. So we have the hormone oxytocin, which is a hormone of sexual arousal in males and females. And we get a build-up of that as labour progresses, and then at the moment of pushing, as the mother pushes her baby out, big peaks of oxytocin, hormone of love. It causes the rhythmic contractions of labour, switches on the reward and pleasure centres in the brain, so massive, we could say orgasmic oxytocin release at that moment of birth. And then we have the endorphins, which both partners release during sex, and which also really reach high levels in labour and birth, saturating the mother's pleasure and reward centres. We have adrenaline and noradrenaline. The fight or flight hormones also peak with orgasm for males and females. So it's that kind of final surge that happens in sex as in birth. And then finally, prolactin, the hormone that makes breast milk, is actually a hormone that's released during orgasm for males and females, and it actually causes apparently the male refractory period. So very satisfying, satiating hormones, very juicy hormones we have during labour and birth as during sex.
Yeah, fantastic to hear how the hormones work, because as a doula attending hundreds of births over 30 years, I always see that when couples are intimate, when there's connection, that eye contact, that kissing, often, I was just at a birth here in Bali, a lot of nipple stimulation, and I'm with people that masturbate and really understand that when they allow their body to go deep into those sensuous, sexual, and love-filled states, they actually find they feel less pain and labor shorter and easier. So how is that all playing in?
Well, my interpretation is that they're stimulating their oxytocin system, and it's much more pleasurable way to do it than having an injection of an infusion of synthetic oxytocin, pitocin. I mean, much kinder to the body and much kinder to the pleasure centers, right? So you get this double whammy. You get the oxytocin released from the brain into the body with sexual arousal, with sexual pleasure, and that's going to increase the rhythmic contractions of labor, and you also get it released into the brain. And this is different from if you receive synthetic oxytocin. It doesn't go into the brain. So that surge of oxytocin in the brain gives you that pleasure, switches on pleasure and reward, switches on attachment, gives natural pain relief. So it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I always say to people that are getting those choices that, labor's taking a while, we could give you synthetic oxytocin, and I always whisper to them, or you could masturbate and nipple stimulation and kissing and touching and turning on. I think it's something, though, that society has been really hesitant to talk about. It's almost like when we put the words birth and sexuality together, people just shut down. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's kind of surprising if you think about the parts of our body that the baby comes out. Oops!
Right.
Same part that the sex goes in. So there's those things. I mean, I think also because in our culture we've made sex quite a clinical, medical, experience. So, in some ways it's necessary to strip the sexuality away from it so that it can be treated in this clinical way. You can have strangers attend you and put their hands inside you, and that's kind of, you have to kind of make it into an asexual event for that. So I think the circumstances and the environment for birth really have made it less sexual. But we've got to reclaim that sexuality. It's our own innate nature as women to be sexual during labour and birth, to flow with the surges, to have this oxytocin release, and for some women, as you know, to even have an orgasmic birth, whether it's a big surge of orgasmic pleasure or just that total euphoria after the birth.
Yeah, and it's so good to hear you say that, because I always say to people, we've sterilized birth, right?
Exactly.
We put gowns on, we do so many things to take away that connection to our bodies and our sexuality. And it is time to reclaim it. I really feel if everyone honored that birth was sexual, from the person giving birth to partners to caregivers, that would be the revolution that would change childbirth.
Orgasmic birth.
Orgasmic birth. So visit us at orgasmicbirth.com and add your comments below this video. How do you think of birth as sex? And in what ways have you included your sacred sexuality in preparing for birth or in labor and birth? We'd love to hear from you. Bye. Ring the bell and subscribe for more orgasmic birth content so you can positively prepare for birth and parenting. And follow us on Instagram at Orgasmic Birth. And if you'd like some extra surprises, go to orgasmicbirth.com.